You are watching the MMA Heat podcast. Today we are going to talk about UFC Auckland, Hooker versus Felder. We're also going to talk about Submission Underground and that great Wilder Fury fight. So check out the show. Welcome to the MMA Heat podcast. I'm Karyn Bryant. You know me from things such as UFC Live and, of course, the MMA Heat here. Been covering MMA since about 2007. Been in it for a minute. Alan, what should folks know about who you are?
Absolutely, and I'll be hosting along with Karyn Bryant. Of course, I'm a UFC welterweight, also dabble in acting and modeling and a host of other things. So I'm glad you guys are tuning in. Hope you can learn something and join us for further shows in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Alan, before we do get to the fight business, I do have to wish you and your beautiful wife, though, a very happy anniversary.
Yeah, thank you. 8 years now. We got married in Costa Rica. Kind of just ran off, did a small wedding, but we got to save all of our money, keep all of our money rather, for after the wedding and celebrate there in Costa Rica. So small wedding. I'm happy with it. I like doing the small wedding.
Nice.
Spending the money on ourselves after.
Very nice. Yeah, small wedding, big love. Really happy for you guys here. But let's talk about, speaking of exotic locations like Costa Rica, New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand. That's where the fight went down. Hooker versus Felder. This is one that everybody was so looking forward to. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to sum up the fight, tremendous effort put in by both men. Deserving of the fight of the night bonus that they got. Yeah. I don't see it as a robbery, though. I went to the scorecards, or we went to the judges' decision together, and I go, you know what? This really could go either way. I understand that it is the hometown that might help Hooker get the nod here, but Paul certainly did enough coming back in that second portion of the fight, bringing the momentum, bringing the power, showing the heart with the closed eye. And had enough momentum to easily win it as well. But I don't think it was a robbery. I think we've seen a lot of close fights these days, and it's really coming down to what the judges saw in it. But how did you see it going down into the end?
Yeah, it was incredibly close. I mean, just incredibly close. Yeah. I will say that, so for one thing, I was flying up to Portland for Submission Underground, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so I didn't get to watch it live, right? So I watched some of the beginning of the card while I was at home. Unfortunately, I was trying to get it to load at the airport, and it was bumming me out, all that interference at the airport and stuff. So I couldn't watch while I was waiting. So I had to watch it after. And by the time I watched it, I did know the outcome. But I don't think that necessarily colored the way that I watched it. It just was that I did know what happened, so it's okay, right? But I didn't actually know that it was a split decision. I just heard that Hooker had won or whatever. And so I'm looking at it, and to me, it was very clear that, Paul started a little slow, but as he got going in like fourth round or so, like I definitely thought some of the more significant power shots that really stopped the other guy in his tracks were landed by Paul.
Yeah.
And yet, when you looked at Paul, though, it was the volume of Dan that was winning it. So, by the end, and it's split, and I'm like, oh no, how is this going to go? And yeah, like you said, the home field thing sometimes comes into it. I don't think this is some hometown cooking, in this case at all. But I did think more power was landed by Paul, but more volume by Dan, and so I guess that's why.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny that you brought that up. I thought the same thing because Hooker was landing more shots, especially early on. He put in the work early. The first round was almost all calf kicks, trying to slow Paul down, which really had no effect on Paul until later on in the hospital. We saw the pics. Right. Paul's ankle was swollen massively, but he didn't show any signs of it hurting him in the fight. But he put in the work with the jab, and he put in the work with the calf kicks, and that started to swell Paul's face up pretty early going into the second round. He was already starting to see a mouse under the eye, and by the fifth round, the eye was closed. Paul was a little late coming back in. Paul started his momentum probably at the end of the third, the fourth round, very good, the beginning of the fifth round looking very good. And as you said, Paul's shots, when he would land even the leg kick and the straight right hand, man, they would throw Hooker back. The leg kicks would throw Hooker off balance. They were much more power. Paul's body type and his style of striking has much more power. But I thought Hooker worked well in terms of he didn't look that damaged.
Exactly.
He didn't look that beat up. By the end of the fight, you started to see some wear and tear on the nose and the eye.
Yeah.
But he wasn't nearly as swollen or bloody as Paul was. So I found that kind of interesting. But the reason, again, that I don't think this was a robbery, I think it was a tremendous fight. It could have gone either way. But you have to think of it, like you said, it's in someone's hometown. And I don't see it as hometown cooking. No. I see it as the crowd has a huge portion part in telling the story of this fight. And so when we're telling the story, and every time Hooker did something, 10,000 people go ballistic, it enhances the shot. It makes the shot look bigger, and it helps tell the story more clear to the judges. It helps the judges go, oh, okay, I see what they're reacting to, or it makes that shot seem more powerful. And so to sum up the fight in my eyes, it was pretty dead even going into the 5th round. I had Felder winning the 5th round up until, I say this, it was neck and neck with Felder in the lead. Pretty neck and neck, Felder in lead in the 5th round. With over a minute left, Hooker was able to secure the takedown. And let me just add this. It was not only a takedown, but it was a bit of a lifting in the air and a slam.
Right. And
when he slammed him, the crowd went nuts. The crowd went crazy. And you could feel that the vibe in the air was, he has to get a takedown. He's losing. Paul's ahead in this round. He has to secure it. So when he secured it, it was ballistic. It was pandemonium in there. And the judges felt that, oh, wow, he got the takedown. And the other little thing I want to add is not only was it over a minute of takedown control at the end of the fight, but Paul being able to scramble back up to the feet. I don't know if you remember seeing this, Karyn, but Hooker got the takedown. Yeah. Paul got up after about 30 seconds, which is great for Paul. But then it allowed Hooker to take him down again.
Right.
Paul got back up, and then Hooker kind of had back control and then feet control, and the bell rang. So what I'm getting at is Hooker didn't seem to be trying to put damage in or in the fight with that last takedown. And so I thought it was going to hurt him. But being that Paul was able to get up and Hooker was able to control the position, win the scramble, Paul gets up, take him down again, win the scramble for over a minute, it helped. It helped in the judge's eyes of giving it to Hooker. But again, that's not really my opinion. When I watched this fight, I really scored it as, what are the judges seeing? Yeah. And I was thinking the judges are seeing the crowd and the takedown at the end more so than the powerful shots that weren't really affecting Hooker's face as much, like we talked about.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, and I agree that that last round, I think I had Paul ahead too, and I kept thinking like at the end that it was the takedown that was the deciding factor in favor of Paul, of Dan. Because it was just one of those things, and you could almost see like when Paul, like the look on his face, you obviously you've been there, and it's like that guy gets that one last thing, you're like, oh,
right.
Like, and there's no way he doesn't know that that's going to affect, the score, and everybody knows the whole steal the round at the end and all of that. And I was just thinking how effective that was for Dan to have been able to steal it like that, and finish. And you could see just at the end of the fight, they're both just wiped out. I mean, even just Dan walking out of the octagon was like, what way is up?
Exhausted,
Yeah, they laid it all out there. And that's the thing. Like, again, I totally agree with you. Not a robbery, incredibly close. When you look at the statistics, Paul was actually leading in a lot of the stats initially. And then Dan edged him out in a couple of things. But it was like by 1 or 2 punches or something like that. It was an incredibly, incredibly close margin. So afterwards, I know Dan mentioned wanting to fight Justin Gaethje, and it's sort of like, can you guys just take all my money now? Just clear out the bank account. Like, that's a sick fight right there. Would totally love to see that. But I wanted to know your take on the fact that maybe it's the end for Paul. He was very emotional in the octagon after talking about, being away from his daughter, who I know, I work with Paul a lot. And he is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful guy and an incredibly dedicated dad. And I know it really does break his heart when he's away from her. He's not just saying that, for good press. He dotes on her. And just seeing him in there after talking about how I know how hard it is, and I know, when daddy's away and all this, and Paul is lucky to have already established himself as a commentator. He does great work there. He's funny. He's I really, really, really enjoy working with him, and I think he does a very good job. And so I guess what I'm saying is, for me, if it is the end for him, like, I mean, what a fight to go out on, and I know he would have preferred to win, but a split decision loss where everybody's like, holy crap, incredible fight. You know, that's going to be in there in the contender for a fight of the year conversation probably. Yeah. And if he's done, I'm happy, because that means my friend won't get his face busted up anymore. But at the same time, when you see somebody that good still, and you're kind of like, well, you can still fight a lot and still win a lot, you know? So it's a tough call, but I'd rather somebody walk away with that clarity and before it's too late. It's
definitely a little bit easier leaving the sport, having a bit of a job security at the desk he has. And the great part about it is not only leaving the sport for job security, but something that's going to keep you in the sport and involved in the sport, the thing that you love. Yes, you're not competing anymore, but you're still in the action. You're still sitting cage side. You're still absorbing that energy from the crowd and from the other fighters. So it is something that would help him if he decided to go that route. And yes, you know, everybody would love to ride off into the sunset on their last fight, but to go and to have, you know, one of his, I can't remember if this is his first main event or not, but I
don't think so.
No. So a big main event rather than and to go into another man's homeland and the press tour that he had leading up to it, and to a fight of the year candidate. And a fight that a lot of people thought that he won, earned the respect of both crowds, however you saw that fight going, and probably made him a bigger star than he would have imagined coming off of a loss. It's not a bad fight to have to lose if you did decide to retire. But I was hearing reports after the fight that his manager said that he thinks Paul was just speaking a little bit emotionally and he might not retire. But one thing that you brought up, you were talking about him and his daughter, that I wanted to add to the show, was I love this moment in the corner. I love getting some of the insight, the in-depth stuff that happens in the corner. And I think it was the third round going into the fifth round, Coach Duke Rufus was standing there, and he gave Paul a little bit of technical advice, but really he was saying, let's do this for our daughters, man. Let's do it for our daughters. Do it for your daughter. You know, she all the time away from her. And, man, he found that trigger. He found that chord in his soul, in his heart, that just sparks something in him. And it sparks something in me, because I feed off of the same stuff. My coaches know, you bring up my son, then I got the blinders on. I'm ready to go. And you could see that, man. I mean, I felt it when Coach Duke Rufus was saying it. Paul came out that next round and was looking phenomenal. He definitely won that fourth round after that speech. He came out looking strong, did not let his foot off the gas. So it backs up what you're saying about Paul being a very not only a great fighter, but a devoted father, and something that's what he's fighting for. And respect to Coach Duke in finding that in his fighter. Sometimes it doesn't have to be too much technical advice. It's just something that gets them to put all their emotion, all their focus, all their energy into that round, and you just have to do that round by round. So I thought that was a great speech by Coach. And again, I can't say enough about Paul, man. He's a
awesome
warrior. And like when he did when he did the post-fight interview, his eye was completely shut.
Totally.
I mean, you're thinking he fought that fifth round with basically one eye. And was winning most of the round up into the takedown. I mean, he was winning the striking exchanges. It shows the heart that he has.
Yeah, he really does. And like I said before, it's always tough. You know, I don't want to see anybody in there getting hurt, but it's just especially hard when you see somebody that you know, you like, you work with, you know, that's your buddy. But again, it also reminds me too of like, oh yeah, he's like legit badass. You know what I mean? Like, not that I didn't think that, you know what I mean? But like the same thing would always happen to me when DC would fight. I just know DC is like this funny dude that I hang out with, you know, whatever. And then I'm always like worried. And then he'll fight. I'm like, oh right, he's really good. You know, like I always forget. But yeah, for Paul, I really just obviously wish him the best. And I'd asked him, I texted with him just saying, you know, you're the man type thing. And hopefully I was asking if he had to stay in Australia, in New Zealand. And he said, you know, that he did have to stay in the hospital at least that one first night. But I haven't been able to check today or whatever and see if he is able to come home yet or not. But, you know, that's going to be a painful, long trip home. But to your point, though, about him earning everybody's respect, I did even see some tweets when I was talking about it. And people were like, oh, no, dude's an honorary Kiwi now. They were like, he's in. Like, he's totally one of us. Like, I get it. So...
Yeah, no, and that type of country where they're big on honor and respect, with that type of performance that Paul put in, they're going to love him. Win, lose, or draw, he earned the respect of everyone there and everyone else that watched the fight as well.
Absolutely. All right. So, Alan, what are some of your takeaways from the rest of the card there? I know, like I said, I was watching some of it before I left the house, so I saw Priscilla Cachoeira get her performance bonus knockout with that uppercut over Shanna Dobson. Right at the beginning, it was like, oh snap, because Priscilla is a girl that just goes for it in every fight, and I love uppercuts. I think that's my favorite punch. So to see that knockout was pretty crazy. I guess the other thing that stood out to me the most. Was Karolina Kowalkiewicz. It's hard to see. It's hard to see her after the fight. I mean, this is a woman who has been in some real tough battles, and I know had some self-doubt. And, after the fight, if you've seen any of the videos that she put out, it's heartbreaking. Her broken, this, that. She just got out, not just out muscled. It's just that she just seemed so much smaller and didn't have as much power. My heart breaks for her. That was really hard to see.
I agree the same way. My same thoughts. I felt bad for her. She physically looked, I don't know, not quite as strong as she used to, or maybe it was just her opponent looked very youthful, very thick, very athletic. It seemed kind of physically there was a difference in the matchup. And then her opponent's skill, and taking nothing away from Karolina. She's a very skillful fighter. But her opponent just seemed to be a step ahead of her. She had better side kicks. She was better combos, a little bit more power, and just a little bit faster to the step, quicker to the step on every shot that they did. Karolina, unfortunately, something happened in her eye. You could see her rubbing it, and it was very much affecting her vision or impairing her in the fight. Anytime these girls would separate, Karolina was rubbing her eye, and it seemed to really be affecting her. But then as soon as they were engaged, she would forget about it. And she would come in hard with 2 or 3 punches and be willing to stand in the pocket and engage. But as soon as they were out again, she was rubbing her eye. And it continued to swell up and give her problems. She was a kind of a mess for wear and tear throughout the fight. So it did worry me, not only seeing her take stuff during the fight, but after the fight. We talked about it before the show. A lot of fighters, she said, in her own words, that, a lot of times after the fight, I'll say, it's okay, I'm okay now, but I'm not okay. She said she suffered some type of broken bone in the side of her eye. And I could sense in the way that she worded it that it worries her. It worries her, taking this type of damage. Just one thing when you break a hand or you have stitches or something, but when you start breaking orbital bones, getting concussions and that stuff, that's when it really, you realize as a human, all right, this is a sport that I do, but I want to continue the longevity of my healthy life after fighting. And you start to think about your health after the sport, after your competitive career is done. So I would not be surprised if she took a little bit of time off. Not saying she's going to retire, but if she took a step back away, let herself heal, let her brain heal, let her eye heal, and then contemplated what the next step is for her.
Yeah, I'd be okay if she just stopped, because that was, I feel like it'd be incredibly gun shy coming back after one as bad as that anyway, right? And she's always going to be a name that everybody wants to fight. She's only ever going to get younger, hungrier girls chasing her down. And that one just hurts me a little more. As a woman, I just feel like I feel that one more, right? You know what I mean? And she's such a lovely girl, and I know that doesn't really effing matter about life, but like, she's a lovely girl, and you think about, oh, broken face and this and that, and I'm like, it hurts me to see her, this beautiful little thing getting broken like that. It bums me out for her. It bums me out. But on the flip side, Xiaonan, like, these girls are just getting better and better. And I was saying to Wade before, I was like, I was sitting octagon side for the Andrade Weili Zhang fight, and Weili Zhang came out and wailed on her, and she's this little powerhouse, muscle, and that's what we all thought Andrade was. And in a way, if you're looking at that fight with Karolina and Xiaonan, and you're thinking about Weili Zhang and Joanna, you're like, like, it might play out a very similar way. You never know.
I was thinking the same thing, though. Another Chinese fighter who looks very athletic, very strong, very thick in the octagon, and aggressive. Both of them have very aggressive natures in the striking department. I thought about the same thing. These women are in the same weight class as well. So it'll be interesting if that fight ever transpires later on down the line.
And so what did you make? So we had, a submission in the co-main event with Crute, right?
He looked complete dominance and cruise control the entire fight.
Yeah. So like I said, I was flying with some of this, so I had to pick it up after. But overall, your takeaway, I mean, it seemed like a good night of fights. And because like you said, the crowd down there is always hyped. Even if they're fighting at 10:30 in the morning or whatever. Like, it definitely seemed like, everybody's excited, fired up for that. And again, like, I just think that for Dan Hooker, sky's the limit after that show.
Yeah, it was a good call out. I don't know if that call out's going to happen. I was seeing something recently that maybe the Justin Gaethje Conor McGregor fight is going to happen. Maybe. So we'll have to see how that plays out to see what's next for Hooker. But nonetheless, Hooker deserves and will get a big name next. He's done enough. We'll have to see what happens with Paul Felder. The thing that I loved about this fight, not only was it a tremendous way to end the card in the 5-round main event, and then in just enough time to go watch the boxing heavyweight title fight of the world. It was perfect. I got to see both fights. Were you able to watch any of that, or were you traveling?
Okay, so when it comes to the Wilder Fury fight, I had gotten to Portland, and so I had told Jake Shields, first submission underground. So Jake and I have known him forever, since like 2007. So we had already planned beforehand. We were like, okay, hey, let's catch up. I haven't seen you in a while. When I get to Portland, I'll hit you up. Maybe we can go watch the fights, grab a bite or whatever. So I'm calling around all these places in Portland. I'm like, you got the Wilder Fury fight? They're like, no. Do you got the Wilder Fury fight? No. Do you have the Wilder Fury fight? Yeah, but we're sold out. Do you have the Wilder Fury fight? No.
Right.
So as I'm getting there, my plane was delayed. I actually had to switch planes, all this nonsense. So I was there a little bit late. And so then Wade's like, I'm texting with him. He's like, oh, they're walking out now. And I'm like, well, crap. I'm not going to be able to see it. So we just went out and had a bite to eat anyway. But then, of course, you're following all the action and you're seeing things. You're hearing about his ear and you're seeing the knockdowns. And then I saw highlights after. Because leading into this one, was thinking, I had even tweeted it out. And we had that conversation online. I was like, 273, my man. That is a lot of man. That is a lot of fury up in there.
He's furious. Yeah, he was furious with that kind of weight.
Yeah.
I know. I was worried. And I really wasn't going for any one person, to be completely honest. I was worried about Fury's weight, meaning I didn't want to see another Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, where one guy comes in super heavy and he was not in shape and he didn't train and he gets picked apart like we saw in the Anthony Joshua fight. So when I saw that you tweeted, Fury was 273. He put on 20 pounds. He didn't take his shirt off at the weigh-in. So I'm thinking, oh man, now is there some sort of mental psyche game going on? Is he worried about the way he looks? None of that played a part in the fight. It was actually the smarter decision because his opponent, Deontay Wilder, looked in impeccable shape.
Amazing.
He came in 20 pounds heavier as well. He actually put on more weight than Fury did compared to their last fight.
Right.
He had the body of LeBron James, to be honest. They're both about 6'7", 6'8", walking around like 265, all muscle. He looked phenomenal. The thing was, you could tell early in the locker room before the fight, they did an interview with Deontay Wilder. He didn't seem himself, Karyn. He did not seem himself. He seemed like he was trying to project confidence, but that wasn't really there. And something worried me. When I saw the interview, he was getting interviewed, and he was saying something along the lines of, I'm ready. Trust me. You're going to see it. You're going to see it. And I'm thinking, why is he trying to convince us that he's ready? Like, we know that, like, whatever. The fight's about to go down. He was trying to show something that wasn't there, and it had me a little bit worried. Mm-hmm. He walked out with this amazing outfit
So cool.
on.
I love his walkouts.
Both walkouts were amazing, but Wilder's walkout was great. But I'm thinking the whole time, how heavy is that? How long did he have that on? How well can he breathe? Because it was not only big, heavy stuff, but it also had batteries and lights and everything on it. And it took him a good 5 minutes to take it off of him. When you saw when they finally got everything off of him, he was like trying to catch his breath almost. He was kind of like trying to absorb the energy of the arena because he had been stuck in this claustrophobic thing for so long. Right. And that was the second red flag that I had to go, man, that might have wore him out wearing that thing for 20 minutes in the back. Then they put him on deck. Then he walks out, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, the Gypsy King was loose as a goose. And the first 2 rounds, kind of more competitive, but still went to the Gypsy King. Yeah. After the knockdown that you mentioned with the eardrum, kind of got it, when he ruptured his eardrum, it was just inevitable. And so, thank you to the corner of Deontay Wilder for protecting my man. I know Deontay said I wanted to go out on my shield, but it was inevitable. And if you would have went 2, 3, 4 more rounds, Deontay, You would have 8 more punches. There could have been a concussion or more concussions. I'm not speaking directly to Deontay, but I'm just saying, as a fighter, I'm glad that they protected him. And this probably, I heard somewhere along the lines too, Karyn, that there was a trilogy fight written up in the contract.
Right.
So it saved them. There's going to be a 3rd fight. Why take more damage? They stopped it. It was the right decision. Good. I applaud the coaches on that one.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's funny, on the way to school this morning, we were listening to the radio, and Aurora's like, what does throwing in the towel mean, right? And so it's cool. Like, I got to give her this whole, like, explanation of it. And then I was like, and it's an analogy you can use in life. Like, da-da-da, threw in the towel, and da-da-da. So it was cool. We had a little teachable moment, which was cool. But, I agree with you. I love that they did throw in the towel. Wilder was 42 pounds lighter, I think, than Fury in this fight. And like you said, even though he bulked up too, there was like a 42-pound difference between the two of them. But I want to ask you about this, Alan, because, of course, as soon as the fight was over, we had Ngannou and Stipe, and I'm not sure if there was somebody else, but both of these dudes are like, Tyson Fury, let's dance, baby. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because I do know that, obviously the Conor Floyd fight, and we've had that crossover, and people have talked about it maybe happening and different kinds of crossover things. I don't know. I don't know if it would ever happen, but I kind of think I'd almost rather see. I feel like Stipe would be just so small. Like, if Tyson showed up at 273 and Stipe rolls in there at his normal, 245 or something? Same thing as as Wilder, I guess. But I don't know, man.
I feel like when Stipe calls him out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Stipe is kind of just trying to hype up some sort of super fight, or keep both guys' momentum going. But I don't know if Stipe really and truly wants to go boxing for boxing with them. I feel like he's almost saying, let's do 1 for 1, or come into MMA trying, because we're both the heavyweight guys. Who's the true baddest man in the world? Right. But Francis Ngannou saying, I want to box. I want not only one fight, but I want multiple boxing fights. I want to have a professional boxing career along with an MMA career. So him, I believe more so. And not to take away anything from Stipe's boxing, but I think Francis is the more scarier boxer than Stipe is, because Stipe has the wrestling in his back pocket that he's used numerous times to get him to this level of success that he's had in MMA, where Francis is purely hands. That's what he does. He doesn't really use the kicks. He doesn't use pretty much any ground and pound. It's all hands. So that's something I could see. But if you're asking me, is it something that I want to see? Of course. You know what we're going to say. Where's the popcorn? Let's watch it. Is it something I'm dying to see? No. To be honest, ever since it was done, it kind of becomes like the common thing. Okay, somebody wins in boxing, somebody calls them out. We saw TJ Dillashaw call out people before. We saw, obviously, Conor have done it. We see the heavyweights do it all the time. It's kind of something that's becoming more and more common. I don't know, man. If something really, they threw something and it really stuck, and it was a lot of back and forth and a lot of training and hype, then I would be into it. But right now, I just feel like it's kind of like, oh, it's MMA versus boxing, and so we kind of try to ride both of the hype trains together. Because when an MMA fight happens, the boxing world talks, and then when vice versa, when the boxing world wins, the MMA guys want to kind of go back and forth. So I don't really take it too seriously at this point. I definitely take Francis more serious than Stipe, though.
Yeah, no, and I mean absolutely no disrespect to Stipe. Again, same thing, though. To me, it would seem more of like, if we're talking big behemoth men throwing punches at each other, I think it should be Francis. Well, all right.
The Jitsu team, and can I say, Wilder is a big man. Yeah. But Tyson Fury looked enormous in the ring. I cannot believe how big. And then when he wears his shorts so high. So high. And his style, it's like he looked like this enormous person. But I talked about this last time. I want to say it one more time. Entertainment. It's fighting. It's entertainment. And you mix them both together. And that's where superstars come from. That's why Muhammad Ali was who he is. He was one of the greatest, but he also entertained people. That's why Conor McGregor is the superstar that he is. And that is why Tyson Fury is now the new superstar in boxing, the guy that is bringing boxing back to life, putting MMA fans back on the map to watch boxing again, because he comes out with these ring entrances that is so entertaining. Totally. He had these beautiful, very strong-looking women carrying him out on a king chair. He was elevated. We've seen that kind of done in boxing, but it was fun to watch again. And then once again, after the fight is done, he sings a song a cappella, gets the whole crowd involved, kisses his wife, sings it to her. It's amazing. He's such a showman, and I love. He's the kind of guy. He's like must-see TV. I didn't want to miss the walkout. I didn't want to miss the post-fight interview, much less the fight. It's like he takes up more TV time. He's that entertaining.
Right. Nice. Well, obviously I was in Portland for Submission Underground. This was the 11th show, my 3rd time there, and it really is fun. It's a lot of fun doing these shows. So we had Mike Perry versus Al Iaquinta on that one. Mike Perry was able to get the victory there in overtime. Unfortunately for Al, because these are usually competed under sort of the EBI rules, and there's a couple of things that need to be, tweaked or whatever. But so really, I think what happened in that one, that Al was going for twisters, and he thought he was allowed to do that, and I guess he wasn't supposed to be able to go for twisters, so that didn't count. And I think Mike got out. Mike had a faster escape or something. But coming into the fight, they were a little bit, yapping at each other. And I don't know if you saw the way in, like Perry's like smoking a cigarette. I was like, what the hell is happening? But they were cool with each other after, which of course is what we always want to see. But it was really kind of fun to see them in this different space. I really like the idea now that we're seeing things like Quintet, and we're seeing, obviously we've had Polaris, all these things going on, but seeing some of our guys flex, the same muscles they use in their day job, but doing stuff a little bit different. I don't know if you saw that match. I know we're going to talk about the tag team main event, but also, like I said, Jake Shields getting in there, and Jake ended up losing by armbar to the Boogeyman in overtime, and that was crazy. The Boogeyman called Jake out. They were really cool with each other. Jake's like, I got caught. I mean, Jake hasn't lost a jiu-jitsu match in a while. It was very entertaining.
That was a big win for Boogeyman. Richie Martinez, another 10th Planet black belt. We go way back, me and Richie.
Nice.
We've both been in 10th Planet together. We competed against one another, me and Richie, as purple belts. Okay. At one of the LA Expo events one time, and then he cornered against me when I fought Ben Saunders. He was Ben Saunders' jiu-jitsu coach, and I had Jared Carlson, two 10th Planet black belts in opposite corners. So we've got a history together. We're friends, but the sport, sometimes you have to compete against one another. Right. But this was a big fight for Richie Martinez to go and to get the win, not only the win, but the finish, your armbar finish. Against Jake Shields. There's a huge feather in Richie's cap, probably the biggest name that he's ever beaten, and to get the finish. He had the advantage. Jake Shields competes all over the world numerous times, but I would like to think that Richie has a bit of an advantage, being that he competes heavily in the ABI format. Right. So he is used to all the time starting on the back, starting an armbar position, and they drill that constantly at 10th Planet, always working those positions. So he had the advantage. Yeah. Super lengthy legs and flexibility. So that was a big win for him. And when we go to the Mike Perry Al Iaquinta fight, it seemed like Al Iaquinta was the better grappler with the wrestling in the normal time slot. Then when they went to the overtime EBI rules, Iaquinta wasn't really sure. I guess he wasn't quite up to speed on, like, it's all about position and holding. I do think that the ref messed up when he had the twister. And it was there for the taking. Mike was kind of giving it to him, but the ref stopped it. Yeah. I don't know the rules, but usually in EBI, if you lose the position you're in, as long as you're going to another position that's a submission. Right. If you go immediately to another submission, it's allowed. But if you go to another position, it's not. So he was in twister position to submit,
for a submission, exactly.
Right. I thought they should have let it go. But, hey, Mike got the thing. And I like to see fighters. I like to see UFC fighters doing this. It makes me want to do it as well. Watching this fight, it made me think, you know what? When I'm healthy, maybe I'll give Mike a call back and we can run it back, submission underground, do a grappling match. I think it would be fun. When I get healthy, look for me to probably compete one of these as well.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. And because also on there, Austin Vanderford was going up against Micah Brakefield, and Austin, of course, is Paige's husband, and he's funny. Like he when they ask him, like, hey, how do you want to be introduced? Like his nickname, I guess, is the Gentleman, but he's also like Mr. Van Zant. Like he likes being called Mr. Van Zant. It's kind of a goof, and it's sort of funny. And so Paige was there, and we were talking for a little while, and she was talking about her arm. It is still in a cast. And I'm like, baby girl, because she's so bummed because they live in Portland, and of course the UFC has that upcoming Portland card, and she really wanted to be on it, but of course she can't because it got re-injured. But she too was saying the same thing. Like she might want to try to just do one of the submission undergrounds. Maybe if the timing happens where she can get into doing that before coming fully back to fight. She was definitely into it. But yeah, Austin had a nice victory. He's undefeated over in Bellator. He's 9-0 overall, but 3-0 in Bellator. And he's a great wrestler and was able to win that fight, that match as well. Yeah.
Hey, I think a good little tag team match might be Austin and Paige versus Mike Perry and his wife. They both compete.
Exactly.
Interesting little tag team right there.
Yeah, the Platinum Princess, she was on the undercard. You know what she did pretty well? It was a white belt matchup, and the other girl did end up winning in overtime. But Platinum Princess went out there and went for it. She was all in, which I really enjoyed seeing. And Mike I was talking to Mike. I said, hey, when are you going to fight again? And he said, I don't know. I'm just kind of cooling out right now, and we're going to take some time because Mike's had a little bit of a rough go of it lately, and also they've been in wars and his face got smacked. I get it. So I was like, cool, dude. Yeah. I get it. Take your time. Do this, do that. Just chill. But the main event. Okay, so for a little backstory, the tag team jiu-jitsu, Chael loves it, and he wants to make that a big part of what Submission Underground does, and it kind of sets the show apart. And it really is entertaining. There's been tag team jiu-jitsu on these cards beforehand, on undercard things. They were younger guys, team Cobrinha versus, Alliance or, whatever, this, that, the other thing. And it's been fun. People are tagging like crazy, jumping in. The crowd's going nuts. It's really fun. It's different. It's a little bit wild. It's manic. You're going to see how many subs you can get. It's really fun. So the last time I was up there in Chael and we were all talking about it, we were like, yeah, no, this could be really cool. And of course, when Gordon Ryan won and he was like, yeah, could you team up with Craig? We'll do this. Chael's like, I'll put $25,000 down to see who could beat Craig and Gordon. And everyone's like, oh, snap, that'd be amazing. So long story short, Gordon retires from competition. Of course he didn't. But anyway, so Craig gets Nicky Rod, who is kind of newer on the scene. He's only been around for a couple of years, but he's doing really well. He got silver at 80cc. He's a guy who's formerly a wrestler, out at training with Danaher, coming in here with a lot of power and a lot of muscle. And even if he doesn't have all the techniques yet, I think he's a purple belt now or something. But he's doing, he's really doing well. Anyway, there's history between him and Vinny Magalhaes and Kyle Boehm, who are on the other team. I want to hear your opinion on this. Let's just put it this way. Vinny went out with a very strategic take, and a lot of people started to get mad because they didn't think he was doing enough. It started out Vinny versus Nicky Rod, and everybody was yelling for them to tag. Craig never even got to tag in. Kyle came in for the overtime. After the match, Chael and I were talking. We're like, okay, so the rules have to have one little added thing. That's you have to tag at least once. Because, of course, as we know, Vinny never tagged out, and neither did Nicky Rod, and so we didn't get to see Craig, and people were bummed out, and so it didn't end up being exactly what we thought.
Yeah, no, it was a bit of a bust, and not the promotion's fault, but just it was really the talent's fault. They took advantage of the situation, and they just said, you know what, these are the rule sets. This is our highest percentage of winning. We're going to do this, and we're just going to get the money and run. I get it. I get that you want to make a good business decision. But you know what? It's entertainment, man. It's entertainment. And, I would never go out there and be like, I'm just going to do the most boring fight possible to get the money. It's just not in my heart. And, I've been following Vinny for a long time.
He's a good dude.
He's a good dude, an OG. He's a 10th Planet guy. Yeah. Love him, got respect for him. He didn't do anything wrong, but it just, he was just, they said it after. Strategically, they were just trying to kind of stall out, or if the guy wanted to throw himself into some mission, Vinny would take it, but otherwise he wasn't going to take any risk. I like the fact that the referee kept standing them up, and I like the fact that the referee would stand them up and make them switch positions.
Exactly.
So that they were further away, but still it wasn't enough. Like you said, you wanted to see somebody get tagged in. I wanted to see some action.
Yeah.
And then at the end in the overtime, his partner, I don't know anybody's name in this, I apologize, but Vinny's partner,
Kyle. Yeah, Kyle Boehm.
Kyle, he fought very well.
Yeah.
Another 10th Planet guy, but didn't love the attitude at the end, if I'm being perfectly honest. He was just kind of flicking off the crowd, saying Portland's a dump. And, I really couldn't tell if he was trying to kind of, in the face of Chael Sonnen, be a little bit Chael Sonnen, play the heel, play the bad guy, or did he really just feel that way and he was spitting in the face of Chael Sonnen, being that's Chael Sonnen's home, and this is his submission underground, and you pretty much just kind of said we wanted the easy money. We didn't care. So I was a bit confused by it after. But, yeah, I wanted to see some tags. I wanted to see some action. And the crowd was a little bit let down at the end.
Yeah, and to be fair, Craig actually was a little bit sick coming into this match, so we knew, we were talking about it before, and we knew that Nicky was going to start the match anyway. But, you know, everybody's there, and Craig's such a big deal, and everybody really wanted to see him, and so it just didn't pan out that way. And so maybe they'll change the way the payout goes. I guess my point is that I don't want people to be discouraged and think that the idea of tag team is bad, because it actually isn't. And if you go back and you look at some of the other Submission Underground shows and you see the other people doing the tag team, it's really fun, and the crowd really, really gets into it. So I think it can still happen, because also like I asked Al while we were there, because Aljo and Marab were with him, and so we're there, and I was like, hey, you know, Al, would you ever come back and do this as a tag team? Who would you do? Who would you have with you? And he's like, well, I would take one of these two. And like, if he came back with Marab Dvalishvili, who just set the takedown record at UFC Rio Rancho and all this stuff, like, you know, that'd be hella fun. Or Aljo, like, it'd be really, really fun. So the guys and girls like the idea of the tag team. So definitely the people there, the athletes like the idea. It's just that they would have to tweak the rule set to say, there's got to be at least one tag out, or at least 2 tags, you know, or something like that during the main official time. And I think that would make a big difference, because if there's at least even just one mandatory tag, and you could say, like, there has to be a mandatory tag, but it can't happen until 1 minute in or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to just be like, cool, I'm tagging right out immediately. But like, to say that, after the first, submission or something like that, you could tweak it, I think, to make sure there's a mandatory tag, and that it still didn't, where you still couldn't game the system, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think it would make it more fun if there was a timer, like a countdown timer. 10 seconds left until the tags become available. Then it becomes more exciting. Oh, shit, now tags are available, you know. So with every system, with every rule set, people are going to try to tweak it, or not tweak it, but try to get the most out of the system. And that's what they did. They did it. It was, look, they got their money. Congratulations to them. I'm all about the business of fighting as well. But entertainment has to go hand in hand, and it wasn't entertaining. So make those tweaks, and the next one should be much more entertaining and fun.
And for while we're here, because Chael likes to hear what people want. So if you guys have comments on this and you have ideas on how the tag team thing could work, by all means, leave them here. The next show is on the 29th of March. Unfortunately, I can't do that one because we'll be family time, like spring break. I'm already, unfortunately, booked on that one. But there's another one coming up in April. Rumble might come back to that one. There's rumors that Rashad might do one. I'm trying to think who else they were talking to about coming back to do some more. But I don't know if those two would be a tag team or whatever. But anyway, like you were saying, you wouldn't mind doing it. I'll let them know, because I'm like, hey, I know a lot of people like doing this, and it's fun, and Portland's chill, and like it's a fun little Sunday afternoon thing to do. So I definitely think people should check it out, and don't let this one tag team match turn you off, because the idea, I think, is really fun. So that said, Alan, this weekend, UFC Norfolk, I'm going there. Joby Wan Kenobi, Joseph Benavidez, Joe Jitsu, up against Davison Figueiredo for the open flyweight title. So that should be entertaining. We also, I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, it should be a fun fight.
Yeah, and Joe's been looking phenomenal. Both men have, but Joe's been looking especially just like he's improved his game, which is hard to think. But he was always coming up just short in those championship bouts. He's looking like he's ready to do it, ready to finally get that title. It should be fun for him, man. I'll be kind of rooting for Joe. I'm a bit biased in this one. I know Joe, and we've watched his career for much longer, so it'll be a fun fight.
Well, and he's been so close, and fought for the title, been so close and everything. So, would this be the third time? Would this be the third time's the charm? I think, is it his third title shot? Yeah. Trying to remember, because he fought DJ twice, but I can't remember. Well, obviously they both would have been title fights. DJ. Anyway, I don't remember exactly. My head's a little spinning right now, but it should be entertaining, and those guys never slow down. The pace is always the same, like 5th round to 1st round. It should be great. So, okay. And Alan, again, an update for you. You're on the how's your training coming?
Yeah, things are going real good for me, guys. Again, ACL. I have my ACL done. It'll be 4 months on Friday, so I'm right around that 16-week mark, which means it's fun for me now. I mean, today in physical therapy, I was jogging, I was doing agility drills, working on getting the bounce back in my step. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, working on being able to do those athletic moves again. Still not looking to fight until probably timeline-wise around November, end of the year. But as far as getting my athleticism back, that's all coming along beautifully, and I hope to start kicking something probably within a month or two.
Awesome. All right, well, folks, thank you so much for checking this show out. We do make it available on Instagram as well, and also as an audio download. You can go to mma.audio to find all of our shows there. On Instagram, I'm KB Heat. Karyn Bryant across the board everywhere else. You can also follow MMA Heat on all these platforms. If you are watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss anything. Alan, where can they find you?
Yeah, and I'm at Alan Jouban across all social media. And please do, like Karyn said, hit the subscribe. We're breaking down fights every single weekend for you guys. We're breaking it down, the fights, the boxing, submission underground, anything you want to know in the combat world. So do us a favor, give us a follow.
That's right. Well, thanks for tuning in, folks. See you next time.
Take care.